Oh, now this asshole's back.
That sounds like you're getting heated in.
Yeah, I'm not happy with what's going on.
What's going on?
I'm going to youtube.com/runbutton/runbutton/live.
Yeah, we're unlisted.
Yeah, but I'm me. If I'm logged in as me, I can go to runbutton/live and it works.
Unlisted, Kyle.
Not for me, though. Give me one of those things where it's like, click on which of these 9 pictures has mountains or hills. But like, mountains or hills is so subjective. So it was being like, no, you haven't got all the hills yet. Find more hills.
No way. Kyle, are you a robot? I don't know. What's a hill? What's not a hill? Who's to say? Bleep, bloop, blort.
Well, I'll say this. It appeared to me to be a basically flat landscape. It was nothing that you'd ever look at and be like, hey, look at that hill. But like, yeah, I guess it did have terrain dimension to it.
See, because here's the thing. You know what the problem is? These robot tests, made by robots.
Made by robots.
Robots are making the test.
Well, I guess they're not making the tests, but they are giving the tests. It's
They're
like
the proctors.
It's basically like if you had replicants. What's the Blade Runner name for robots?
Yeah.
Replicants. It's like if replicants were replicons. It's like if Megatron sent his replicons to hand out the Voight-Kampff tests.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's like. It's like robots are deciding who's a robot. Who
That's what I'm saying.
Who are we giving the power to?
Yeah. Have you seen the new John Mulaney thing?
Yes.
Kid Gorgeous?
Yes.
He had the captcha bit. He had a captcha bit in there. Do you remember this?
I don't remember it.
Well, he did a voice for it. He did like a robot troll voice, where he's like, shit. I don't want to get the voice wrong, but he does a really good like robot voice that sounds like a bridge troll.
Oh yeah, because he does like the
Jews. That's the thing. That's okay. That's what it is. I think I nailed that.
Yeah, it's being like, which of these pictures has street signs? What I'm fascinated by, though, is I'm fascinated by the CAPTCHA that just has you click a box that says, I'm not a robot. And you click it and it goes, yeah, you're not. Like, I need to know what's happening behind the scenes there.
every time I click one of those, my fingers are crossed.
Because it begs the question, like, if that's okay, why aren't... I guess they must be levels of security because then they'd just all be that one.
Yeah. But I've done some important shit where all I had to do was check a box. It's like, you really don't think that someone could build something that figures out how to check a box? Maybe it can tell that it wasn't a physical input?
It must be looking for... I don't know. It must be looking for reaction speed or like, or something like that.
Like if
it's just happening instantly, then it's like a computer doing it automatically.
Just build in a wait time to your robot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just feel like there's no such thing as security.
Do we have to look this up? Do you have to look up like how
does that work? Google is keeping its algorithms secret, so all we can really do is make guesses about how it works. But my understanding is that the new system will analyze your activity across all of Google's services. Thus, it is likely that that the checks are not limited to the page that has the checkbox on it.
Does Google own CAPTCHA?
Google owns reCAPTCHA.
reCAPTCHA is different than CAPTCHA?
CAPTCHA is a catch-all, and reCAPTCHA is a brand of CAPTCHA, I believe.
Whoa.
Who
the fuck decided to give something that wasn't a copyrighted brand the name CAPTCHA? I mean, I get it must stand for something then.
Maybe it's not a catch-all. Maybe it's
I think I just learned what it stood for like a week ago and I don't remember anymore.
For example, if they detect your computer/IP address you're using was also used in the past to do things that a normal human would do, things like checking Gmail, searching on Google search. Oh, so it's basically like Google's watching you all the time, so it doesn't need to know that you're not a robot.
Yeah, it already knows that you're not.
It already knows you're not a robot because it knows everything you're doing. Oh, that's scarier than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just that it doesn't work.
That was the thing, was I was thinking, like, the only way that checkbox thing would work is if they're looking at what you were doing right before you clicked on the box to see if you were acting like a robot. But how would it be able to do that? And that's the answer.
Google
Is that
knows
it's Google and they're watching you all the time.
Yeah. Do you think it doesn't work? Do you think there's some people who are just like totally not tied to Google in any way, and then they click the box and it's like, nope, we don't know that you're not a robot.
Yeah, I guess it must happen. Here we go. Fuck you.
What do you think? I'm just a bathroom. It's an important part of the body. Is the bathroom. The bathroom's a part of my body.
Completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. That is a tortured acronym.
It's an acronym.
Completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. Turing test to tell is 1T. Also, it adds completely is one of the words. Like, you just put that on there because you wanted to see.
Which is weird because CAPTCHA doesn't really mean anything. So it could have just been APTCHA.
Well, I mean, it's like capture.
Capture what? Robots?
I guess. Yeah.
That was easy.
That's not a good...
What do you mean? What are you saying?
What just happened that was easy that you just pushed that button for? No.
That was easy.
We're remembering to use it now.
Listen,
finally.
no, you're using it wrong now.
I am not. I decided when to use it.
Give me
and I
that.
decided.
Give me that. No, give me that.
No, this is mine.
Give it to me right now,
This
please.
is literally mine.
No, it's not.
It is literally mine because you were going to throw it away, and I said no, I'm keeping it.
No, it's mine.
Do you remember this? Do you remember when you read the life-changing art of tidying up, and you said I'm going to throw this away? Do you want it?
I remember, but that wasn't like okay, I'm keeping it so it's yours now. It's like
you're offering.
You convinced me to not throw it away. That doesn't make it yours.
No, it's mine. You said, do you want to take it? Do you want to have this? Instead of me having it, do you want to have it? I made a choice.
That was easy.
Can I have that, please? Jesus Christ.
This is on you. This is
the bit was going to be I asked you for it, and then you give it to me, and then I do this.
That was easy.
But you tossed it to me, and it dropped out of my hand, and then crashed onto the table, rolled across my laptop, and then almost fell on the floor. So it wasn't easy at all. That was a tortured example of how to give somebody something.
To be fair, it didn't crash on the table. It crashed onto the laptop.
That's worse.
I guess I'm glad you didn't notice.
I don't know about you. I don't know about this whole run button thing. I don't feel like it's working out.
All right, guys. Kyle quits, so who wants to be my new co-host? Anyway, welcome to the Run Button Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Carberry. With me today is no one.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, you're going to be the guest? I have a special guest today, Kyle Churchill, back from a brief hiatus.
Oh, well, just because I think it's not working out doesn't mean I'm not going to participate.
Right,
I
okay.
just think it's bad.
Oh, well, with me is my co-host.
I just think Run Button was a mistake, and maybe I think we should shut it down. You just shut it off. You delete all those videos.
Oh, delete the videos. That sounds good.
You've got 2 hours to download all the Run Button videos you want before they get scrubbed from the internet.
So what's going on with you, Kyle?
I don't know, whatever.
Cool. Sick podcast. Ask me what's going on.
I don't know what's going on with you.
And I guess not much.
Okay,
Cool.
cool.
So,
I've been doing stuff.
I played Spider-Man.
I played Spider-Man.
Did you play all of it?
I played all of it.
I played all of it too.
I tweeted about this yesterday. Like I woke up at like 7:30 or 8, and I
AM.
played AM.
American Machine.
I played Spider-Man for like 90 minutes and then finished it.
I said American Machine, but then I was trying to think of what PM is, and now I think that I want to refer to AM and PM as Atlantic Machine and Pacific Machine.
Okay.
I don't know what they are. I don't know what it actually is.
Some Latin.
Yeah, right? Some stupid shit. Some dumbass old guy shit, probably. Hey, anybody who knows? Do you guys know what AM and PM stands for?
They don't know. They're idiots.
They're idiots. I think every once in a while
You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go ask Markiplier's fans if you wanna.
That's where all the smart guys hang out.
Oh, what didn't I just? I recently heard about Markiplier, like being involved in something. I can't even remember what it was
All
or
right,
anything.
You heard it here
just
first. Breaking news. Remember about Markiplier is involved with something.
He's
Is it
involved
a crime?
with something.
Did he do a crime?
No. I just like some kind of like. It was basically just a thing where it sounded like Markiplier is more popular now than he was before, and I was just like, God damn it, Markiplier is still a thing? Fuck Markiplier. It was just like Markiplier doing something that only famous / successful people get to do, and I was like, fucking Markiplier with his fucking success.
Can I read you a Wired headline and the little blurb here?
Uh-huh.
How do viral videos make their money? YouTubers share their secrets. Quote, advertisers pay to have their ads shown in front of YouTube videos, says Markiplier.
Jesus Christ! Like, so, like...
It's like that old, do you remember Frank Caliendo? And it's like, he does that John Madden bit where he's like, to win this one, they're going to have to score more points.
Like, when you got good football players playing good football plays, that's just good football. It was something like that. Great football players doing great football plays, playing great football. That's just great football.
Oh boy!
Like, I love that somebody was literally like, "What are the nuts and bolts of this?" Not like, "How did you become more successful than other channels?" But literally, like, someone was looking at YouTube, going like, "Where's this money coming from?"
Yeah, Wired magazine's not sure how YouTube monetization works. Oh boy!
Sorry, that was
By
an
the way,
accident.
the rest of that sentence that I read says Markiplier, who currently has 21 million subscribers for his gaming videos. Oh, he continues. You get a share of that. Advertisers pay to have their ads shown in front of YouTube videos. You get a share of that.
Great. Now we know how advertising works. Thank you for the fucking
Thanks. Yep. Thanks.
the commerce lesson,
Now,
Markiplier.
the big problem with ads on the internet is like the internet got grandfathered into this really awful, shitty advertising thing, like this model of advertising where it's like cents on the dollar for per views.
I don't know that it got grandfathered in. I think that's just sort of. I mean, that's almost the model for like everything.
Okay, but no. It's not. Well, that's the thing. It's not the model for everything.
Almost everything.
It costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get an ad in like a newspaper, and it costs like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an ad on television. More people see internet ads than ever see newspaper ads because nobody sees newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
But the fraction that, like, the cost of the ad on the internet is just so low. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be as low as it is. Brands are getting away with theft because of how low it costs, how cheap it is to put ads on the internet.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Because it like
Here's a good example. I talked to my grandfather's in radio. He was a radio. He was like a talk show host and morning radio DJ for AM radio stations that he eventually bought. And so
wasn't he the one that did that talk show that pops up in the Spider-Man game every once in a while?
Yeah. So small backstory. My
Keith's grandfather's J.
Jameson.
Jonah Jameson.
And I'm JJ in space. But he would tell me about how advertising would work on the radio stations, and it would be like, we're talking like in 1970s dollars, it was like $20,000 to run a set of ads.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the real truth of it is that advertising doesn't really work.
Right.
Like obviously ads influence people, but like not to the degree that brands think or want it to.
Right. Well,
but the thing is, like, with TV and radio, you really don't have metrics. Like yeah, they estimate like how many people watched a show or something, but you don't really know if anybody was affected by the ad. You just assume that it is because it costs so much money or whatever. But on websites, you can see how many people clicked on the ad, and they're like, oh, no one's clicking on these ads. We're not paying for this.
So you're saying that like because you can track it one-to-one on the internet,
yeah,
it all it shows is how ineffective advertising actually is.
Yeah.
But what it looks like is, wow, internet ads are so much less effective than other kinds of ads.
Yeah.
Which is
That's
true.
what I think. That's what I think.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. But I did the math. You know, our channel makes up like a huge percentage of the listeners that radio station got, and they're raking in like $20,000 for advertisement deals. And we've got these, we shut off, like, roll-in ads because we were getting, like, $20 a month each for them.
I'll take $20,000 to run some ads, though.
Yeah, I'll take $20,000 to run some ads, sure.
Yeah.
$20,000, yeah.
We'll bake them in.
$20,000 two ways, I'll run an ad.
We'll bake them in. They'll be in there forever.
I am explicitly anti-advertisement, but if you're giving me $10,000 a piece to run an ad, I'll fucking run an ad. I will do it.
I don't know how this works, but have you noticed that you listen to any podcasts that have this like dynamic ad thing where like you download an episode from 3 years ago, but it's an ad that they put in yesterday?
I don't know. I don't think so. Oh, I think I have done it once or twice, and I just assumed that it was like just this one show updated their ads or something.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. It gets really annoying. But like there was one, it was really weird. It's like almost not even an ad. I mean, it's like technically an ad for the Associated Press, but it's like the AP News Minute. Like, we got 60 seconds. We're just gonna tell you some headlines, and like that's kind of nice. I'm like, yeah, sure. Give me some news in a minute as an ad. Why not? But the thing was like
the news all sucked. It was all bad news.
Well, yeah, I mean, that goes without saying, but it was that, like, I binged, like, 30 episodes in a week, and it was like I heard the same AP News Minute, like, 30 times, and I was like, kill me. I don't want to...
There's a little button that'll skip 30 seconds forward.
I can't hear about Scott Pruitt resigning from the EPA one more time.
Yeah, and by the way, I do want to emphasize that when I said that the news sucked, I both mean that the news was unfortunate news, probably, but also low quality news. So it's both where like it sucks to hear news that sucks, but also the news isn't even good.
Yeah.
It's bad in both ways. Although Scott Pruitt resigning, not a huge loss.
No, but it's all it's just all bad. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like
you're saying that you weren't trying to think about Scott Pruitt then.
I mean, I wouldn't have known about it if I hadn't heard that AP News Minute, because I wasn't really paying attention to the news during that period.
Okay.
But it's all bad. It's all bad forever.
Anyway, played Spider-Man.
Played Spider. I mean, do you want to keep talking? I have political things to talk about.
You do?
All
right.
I fell down a hole. I heard about this podcast from Slate called Slow Burn. You heard about this?
No, I don't like Slate.
Okay. I don't know anything about Slate, really.
I don't like, they're not the worst, but I just as a general politics, most of it just drives me so mad. I'm implementing a no politics rule. What's your news? What did you hear about?
So they have a podcast called Slow Burn. The first season was all about the idea is basically like what it's like to go through these like political scandals. So the first season was about Watergate, and it was kind of about like the slow unfolding of Watergate. Like it takes you step by step, and like kind of gives you more of a sense of like what it was like to go through it. Because it's sort of relevant to right now because we have got all that stuff. We got all that Trump rigmarole out there doing what it do. And so that was really interesting. And then season 2 is about the impeachment of Bill Clinton, all that Monica Lewinsky business. And it's really good, and people should listen to it. It's very good. It was interesting to hear fucking it was kind of funny to see how much Watergate is like a lot of this like Trump Russia stuff happening now.
My quick note on Watergate is that at the same time as Watergate was happening, there was another much less reported on scandal called COINTELPRO. Do you know about COINTELPRO?
No.
COINTELPRO is basically a CIA directive, I guess. I don't really know what the CIA words
I don't think
are.
the CIA even knows what their things are. They're just like, we're just out there doing shit.
We're just getting it done.
We're
Like,
just
the thing
doing
you got done was secret wars. Anyway, COINTELPRO is it was a really broad program. They did a lot of stuff, but a big chunk of it was that they were like harassing and blackmailing and maybe assassinating like black activists and other like sort of activist groups.
Cool.
Around the same time, and so there's like this a critical of like. There's like a media studies like critique of Watergate as like a highly publicized scandal in order to avoid talking about the COINTELPRO scandal. So it's like, the COINTELPRO thing is so bad that let's like focus on Watergate. And like if COINTELPRO wasn't a factor, maybe they would have tried to just brush the Watergate thing under the rug. So like publicizing the Watergate scandal as part of an effort to not talk about this much worse scandal. I can't remember the guy's name that they maybe assassinated. Fred Hampton, I think, was a Black Panther leader. He's like he's like in his early 20s, and they basically sent cops to his apartment and had the cops just shoot and kill him. Without a warrant or with like a phony warrant or something.
I'm sure you've seen that quote from like somebody who worked for Nixon, like one of his people, that the quote about like demonizing drugs to
Yeah. You're talking about them admitting that the drug war was intentionally
racist. You know that one.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, that's a quote.
It's good to
I guess now I brought it up. I have to look it up and read it. Got it. I searched Nixon war on drugs. Of course we did, and it came up. Nixon domestic policy chief John Ehrlichman said, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did." All-time quote.
That is an all-time quote. John Ehrlichman, that name sounds really familiar. Is that a guy, did he go out and say that because he had a change of heart? Is that why he goes and does that? Did he work on the new? Is that one of the guys who worked on the nuclear, like the nuclear rules stuff? Oh no! He was one of the guys convicted in Watergate. That's why his name sounds so familiar.
Okay.
There's I think there was a guy that I think worked for Nixon that was like part of the team that developed like the rules for nuclear warfare. And he like went in and discovered that their plan for nuclear warfare, if it did break out, would have like destroyed the whole planet. Like,
sure.
He like went and scientifically proved that it would have killed like 4/5 of the population of the Earth.
Do you have any memory of like what it was?
Yeah, so it was like if we detect that there's a nuclear launch somewhere, we're going to send this many nuclear bombs to here, and here,
Okay.
and however many places. And the guy was like, yeah, I calculated that the fallout from that, and then like the radiation sickness, and then the like the localized climate change that comes with nuclear explosions would have killed like 2/3 of the population of the planet.
Cool.
And then he was like, not even counting the fires that would have started and spread from the explosion. I can't remember that guy's name though, and I don't know that it actually was. I don't know that it actually was Nixon.
So this is related to nuclear stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things I watched was this is a really weird roundabout way that I found this, but I found out. So
real quick, do you want to know what the name of the post was for this episode on Patreon?
What?
Run Button Podcast. This time we're talking about video games.
Why would you say that?
I assumed that we were going to.
No, get out of here. So you know that Netflix recommends things to you based on, you know, like what you've watched before and what you liked and whatever, and it tracks how you watch things. But I found out that apparently it will also show you different thumbnails for the same shows based on how it has categorized you as a viewer. So what's up?
I'm just looking for the name of that guy that I was talking about. I'm listening.
List of nuclear whistleblowers. That's a Wikipedia article. Anyways, I went onto my mom's Netflix. My mom's Netflix account is like, I let her use my account so she has a profile on my Netflix account. So I was like, I'm going to go to my mom's profile to see if her thumbnails are different. But we had such different tastes that it didn't show me any of the same shows that it showed her. But one of the things that it recommended to her for some reason was a docu-series called, and as a fucking, what's the...
It might have been Daniel Ellsberg. He might have done both that and the Pentagon Papers.
What?
Daniel Ellsberg was like a huge government leaker.
Did what?
Pentagon Papers?
No, you said that.
The nuclear thing that we were talking about earlier.
Oh.
Might have been him both times.
Okay. Anyways, I came across this thing on Netflix because it was on my mom's Netflix called Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States. And I don't know anything about Oliver Stone.
He's a weirdo.
I'm
a super weirdo.
I'm sure.
He has incredibly contradictory politics. On some things, he's really interesting and insightful, and on other things, he's a fucking wackadoodle.
Okay. So I watched a couple episodes of this series, though. I was like, well, let's see how this goes. And I had some mixed feelings on it. I think it's weird. It's like he's trying to go through like the entire 20th and 21st century so far of like American history and be like, here's the, basically trying to like, go against, what we're all taught to believe about how America, we're all told that like America came in and won World War II for everybody and we were the big heroes. And then it's sort of like, but actually, basically the entire war was fought single-handedly by the Soviets and we kind of came in at the last minute and helped them mob everything up, more or less. And like that sort of thing. So But that's like the first they're hour-long episodes, and the first 3 episodes are all about like World War II in the 1940s and stuff. So it's kind of like, it does kind of feel like it basically strikes like I haven't watched the History Channel in a long time. I know there's a lot of terrible bullshit shows on the History Channel, but it like comes across to me like this like History Channel style of documentary. Like if you have a dad who's like way into like World War II documentaries, but you wish that he would watch one that would actually tell him something about how World War II actually kind of happened a little bit, like this might be a good thing to recommend to him.
Yeah.
But one of the I had to stop watching it because it got too depressing, because they were talking about FDR's vice president in like his second and third terms or something, who was
vice president,
like president of Vice.
No, just president of vices.
It was this guy named Wallace. I think his name was Wallace, and he just seemed like a good guy. Like this documentary is like sucking his dick left and right, like he's a god to Oliver Stone or whatever. But he seemed like a good guy. Like he was saying things like, I guess people were saying like, oh, the 20th century is going to be or like starting in the 1940s, it's the American century. The next 100 years is going to be America's century. And it basically was. But he was saying like, if this is going to be the American century, it needs to be the century of the common man. And he was saying things like, we need equal pay for equal work, regardless of race or gender. You know, and this was like the 40s. It was like kind of a big deal. He seemed like a pretty good guy with good ideas. And he was really popular with people, just not establishment Democrats. They fucking hated him because he wasn't a corrupt scumbag like the rest of them.
Right. It turns out that Democrats have always been bad.
Yeah.
And they've always been just barely not as bad as Republicans, except for when it was the other way around and Republicans were just barely
And
not
this
as
was
bad
still
as
the
Democrats.
40s, so they were like...
Yeah. That was in the middle of the Democrats still being like racist pieces of shit.
Everybody. It's the 40s, so like everybody was a racist piece of shit, basically.
But I think this was when Democrats were still like pro-segregation.
Yeah. That was... Yeah. Or I mean, like, if there was a portion, at least, of the Democrats that were anti-segregation.
Yeah, I don't really know anymore. I knew at some point. I'm agreeing with you.
You know, it was like there like a big part, like the big faction of the Democratic Party. They're called the Dixiecrats because they were Southern conservative Democrats.
Yeah,
and it was basically like the civil rights movement was sort of like the last straw for anybody in the Democratic Party being anti-segregation, because they were all like, fuck you guys, we're going to the Republicans because they get it. They know that white people and black people shouldn't mix.
Yeah.
But anyways, this Wallace
hold
guy...
out for like 25 more years.
This Wallace guy, so apparently so now... once people get appointed as presidential candidates by a party, they choose their running mate. Unless I'm getting something wrong about that. That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
But apparently that's not how it worked in the 40s. It was that, like, I get, like at the Democratic National Convention, just like all of the delegates or whatever would like vote on who they wanted to be the vice presidential candidate. So going into it, Wallace, so this was for like FDR's last term in office, and and like on the first day of the convention, Wallace had like 65% of the vote, and like the next guy had like 15% or something. There was like 8 candidates, and Wallace had 65% of the vote, and there was Truman, who had like no political experience or anything. He had like 2% of the vote, but he said,
I'm willing to drop atomic bombs.
Yeah, so it would basically like overnight, all these people that had a vested interest in getting Truman to be like their political puppet basically went around and like made political favors and promised like job appointments and who knows what, money maybe, to like all these different Democratic delegates to vote for Truman instead of Wallace. And then lo and behold, the next day, Truman beats Wallace and becomes the vice president. And at this point, the documentary said, like, oh, Wallace could have been president, but instead he's relegated to whatever.
Dustbin of history.
The dustbin of history. And it was like, I was watching it, but I wasn't putting all the pieces together. Like, my brain wasn't just working right. I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess he could have been president in that, like, being vice president makes it easier to be elected president later. So I guess he could have, like, totally forgetting, like, oh yeah, FDR died in office and his vice president became the president.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why Wallace would have been the president.
Yeah.
But instead it was Truman, and it was like, he didn't even want to be president. Like, he was really unhappy. He was like, oh shit, like, I didn't sign up for this job. This is a lot of responsibility. And he had like these horrible conservative people that would follow him around and give him advice on everything because he didn't know what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And then, and he was the one that was like really excited about using the atomic bomb. Like, I think where it was going, I didn't get there because
I'm lying about needing to use the atomic bomb.
Yeah, exactly. Like the line, like, the official line about like why we use the atomic bomb was like to save American lives and to like end the war quickly. But really what it was that Truman wanted to make a display of power to make sure that, that like in the post-war negotiations or whatever, that like America would be in a place of dominance to come out on top.
Yeah. So the U.S. government dropped 2 atomic bombs and killed like so many people, so many civilians. Basically, so that basically to show off and to get a good payout after the war was over. The thing that they don't, back to your original point about the Soviets doing most of the heavy lifting in World War II. Japan was like dying to surrender to abilide having to fight the Soviets even before we dropped a single one of the bombs. That was why they were gonna surrender anyway.
Well, then why didn't they surrender after the first bomb?
They tried to. America didn't accept their surrender.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
what?
They tried, yeah. I'm like 99% sure that I'm remembering that right, but I believe that they were trying to surrender and America dropped another atomic bomb on them. That the second one was on a civilian city too.
Yeah, I guess maybe I should go watch some more, but like I literally had to stop watching it at that point because it was just like so depressing about like this. So like Wallace being pushed out and Truman coming in and him being horrible and like the nuclear bomb thing, and I was like, I don't know how much more of this I want to watch.
Yeah,
it's just like really depressing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is basically par for the course for all of American history.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad out there.
I got one more thing.
Okay.
We could throw out this last one. They put in for the Slow Burn podcast feed, they put in one episode of a different podcast to advertise it. It was called the RFK tapes. And so apparently, when Robert Kennedy was assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan, it was just a few years after JFK was assassinated, and there was all this trouble around, like missing evidence and obviously people getting killed mysteriously and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So they were like, we're going to get this right. So they recorded everything. So there's just like tons and tons of audio of them like talking to all these different witnesses and all this stuff and everything. And it's, man, I wasn't expecting a podcast to make me think that mind control might be possible. But how much do you know a lot about the RFK assassination?
I don't know a ton about it, but I do know about the CIA's official experiments into mind control.
Mm-hmm. MK
Ultra, and its potentially real successors.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, like, I still don't really believe it, but if there's any, like, if you feel like you might want to, if you want to see if you can be persuaded to think that mind control might be real, go listen to the RFK tapes.
Well, here's what I know is real. I know that hypnotism is real.
Yeah,
you can actually hypnotize someone.
I didn't know that. Yeah, like, I didn't believe that.
People have different levels of suggestibility, and it's generally agreed that with like, regular ass hypnotism, that you can't make someone do something that they really actually wouldn't do.
Okay.
But like, I've been in hypnotism shows where they do like a thing where it's like, "Here, we're just going to test your suggestibility. I'm going to do this thing to the whole audience," and I was like,
Really?
yeah, for real.
Yes. So I am kind of giving it away a little bit because they sort of bury the lead a bit in the podcast, but yeah. So the idea, I guess, is supposed to be that Sirhan is like incredibly suggestible through hypnotism.
They just found the fucking biggest dummy.
Yeah, like, well, it was that, but also he had a head injury. There's so many weird things about this. You gotta go listen to the podcast. It's wild. But like, there's things like he fell off a horse and got a head injury, and like officially, like the hospital documentation says that he was treated for a head injury and released the same day. But to his memory, supposedly, he remembers being in a hospital bed for like weeks, or like he couldn't even tell what kind of time was passing because he was so heavily drugged. He was just going in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
And to him, it felt like he was there for weeks.
Zoolander.
And then, what is that?
Zoolander.
I mean, I know of the movie Zoolander.
Yeah. It happened to Derek Zoolander in Zoolander. He went to the day spa. He thought he was only there for a day. It was called a day spa.
Okay.
And he was like gone for like 3 or 4 days or something, and they turned him into Manchurian Candidate to kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Did this happen in Zoolander?
Yeah, to kill the prime beef of the prime roast
rib.
The prime rib of I can't remember. He kept on getting the name wrong. It was very funny. But yeah, he came back and he had 80 messages on his mailbox, and his real life wife, who is his romantic lead in the movie, was like, "You were gone for all weekend. Where have you been? You've been missing." And he was like, "It was a day spa." You don't remember this?
Well, I've never watched the movie front to back. I think I've only seen a few bits or whatever. But yeah, so like supposedly Sirhan he remembers being in a hospital for weeks and being heavily drugged, and like his brother said that when he came back he was never the same, and
Who decided to give this guy the same first name, last name?
His parents. Yeah, I don't know.
What is going on there?
There's
that's suspicious in itself. If you gave me 100 names and you say pick out the one that killed the president, I was like, oh, it's the guy whose name is Richard.
There's this awesome part at the first episode. It's like a very like well-produced podcast where it's like the music is swelling and it's being intercut with like these scratchy like news reel recordings and stuff like that, and he's talking about how like he would he goes like he'll go down in history along with John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, but instead of being known by 3 names, he was only known by 2, and then he says, "Well, actually, just 1." It sounds like a joke, but when you listen to it, it's really cool because they make it sound awesome.
What's it called?
It's called the RFK tapes.
Okay, I'll maybe check that one out. I would like to say that fuck the Kennedys. The Kennedys suck. Political dynasties are awful. Bobby Kennedy was not.
Yeah, but instead we got Nixon though.
Instead we got. Yeah, Nixon.
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy would have been probably a better president than.
Probably better than
But
Nixon.
he was there when JFK was doing all JFK's bullshit. When JFK was escalating the Vietnam War and secretly invading Cuba and maybe going to start a nuclear war with Russia and Cuba. He was there for all of that. Just let it happen. So
I thought he was too busy getting laid to really get
You can do
anything
both.
done.
You can get laid and still think that escalating the war in Vietnam is cool.
Supposedly, JFK said he needed to have sex at least 3 times a day. That's something.
Yeah, that's like one more than usual.
But this last thing I want to tell you about the RFK tapes is wild.
Said he asked if RFK was shitty. RFK sort of, I think he had like sort of a self, he like basically, I think that he said like, oh, my politics were bad, but I'm better now. But like, who fucking, like what politician has ever said that and actually meant it, right?
RFK was murdered, so I don't think he could say
no, but it was
that
before
later.
He was, well, in your life, you still have a later, even if you eventually die. So, like, if he was doing shitty stuff in the early 60s, in the mid-60s, he can say, that stuff was bad, and now I care about, like, black people and poor people, and I care about not going to war. And then he can be assassinated for having said those things.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that's definitely clear when you listen to the RFK tapes is whether or not you believe this idea that, like, Sirhan was a robot assassin who was hypno-programmed to kill Robert Kennedy. What's clear is that the LAPD just did a fucking horrible job. Like, they destroy, like, basically in order, like, because on its face it was so clear cut. It was like the guy walked straight up to Kennedy with a gun, shot him in the head. People wrestled him to the ground and got the gun out of his hand. Like, everyone saw it. It happened right in front of people. So it's like, I think LAPD was like really frustrated. Like, they, you know, like they thought it reflected poorly on them or whatever, like cops do. That it was like they really wanted it to be an open and shut case, but there were all these other questions about it, and they were just like, just fucking incinerate that. Like, they just like destroyed all this stuff.
Not suspicious at all.
And there was this thing about like a woman in a polka dot dress. Like, supposedly Sirhan was seen with a woman in a polka dot dress, and there was like a witness who saw the woman fleeing the scene who supposedly as she was fleeing said, this is like so hard to believe, but that she was running out of the building saying, we shot him. And then this bystander says, like, who did you shoot? And she says, Senator Kennedy. Like, that's how this, it seems impossible that any political assassin would go around being like, we did it. But like,
that is very hard to believe. Also, I don't think he was a senator, was he?
Yeah.
At the time, because I thought he was like in JFK's administration. Did he then go real quick, go get elected to the Senate?
I guess he must have. I don't know. But anyway, so there's this young girl, and there were multiple people that claimed to have seen this woman in this polka dot dress. And this girl says that she heard the woman saying that they shot him and that she was fleeing the scene or whatever. And so there was like this search of like, we have to find this woman, whoever she is, and they can't find her. And so there's actually a recording you can hear where the LAPD puts her in a room with some like police sergeant that she's never met, and they make her do a polygraph test, which aka lie detector test. And if you don't know, it's completely fake. It's bullshit. It doesn't work at all. Polygraph tests are 100% fake pseudoscience bullshit. Never agree to take a polygraph test, because even if you tell the truth, the person who's interpreting it can just say that you're lying, and there's no way to disprove them. Yeah. So you're essentially handing them the answers they want for the questions they're asking. Yeah. But so they put her in a room, they set her up to the polygraph, and asking these things like, did you really see this woman? Did she really say this? And the girl's going like, yes, yes. And then the police officer goes like, you know, I'm going to stop with the questioning right now because these things you're saying aren't true. It says right here that the things you're telling me, these are lies. And she's like, no, it's not. And they basically like gaslight this girl in a room for like 3.5 hours until they convince her that even if she thinks she saw what she saw and heard what she heard, that she really didn't and just made it up in the panic of the moment, even though it doesn't make sense because she wasn't in the panic. Like, the panic was where Kennedy got shot, but she was like hanging out outside. She wasn't panicked at all. Yeah. But then they convince her to sign something that says like, oh, I was wrong. There was no woman in a polka dot dress and it was all wrong and I made it up or whatever. Or like I remembered incorrectly in the moment.
Here's the thing.
You know, and like, but like when you can hear it happening. Yeah. It's horrible. You know, she's like crying. Yeah. And like, it's just the worst. The worst.
Government shit is so crazy.
So crazy.
It's crazy. The shit that they do is so crazy. Who let them do all that stuff?
Who let them do that stuff?
Who lets them do... Who's... Kyle, can I ask you a question? Who's watching The Watchmen?
Oh, my God.
And the answer is no one, and there shouldn't be any Watchmen.
Probably not.
I'm playing Spider-Man.
Yeah, speaking of police and all the horrible shit they do.
Yeah, Spider-Man. What a game. So here's the thing. I have like I want to say two things to just get it out of the way to set up the rest of the conversation about this. I have almost nonstop criticisms of that game's politics, which are not like other games that have bad politics. This game is explicitly political in ways that other games are often only implicitly political. Mm-hmm. And the worldview that it is actively espousing is bad.
Yeah.
That being said, this game is fucking so fun.
Fucking
Holy
good.
Shit,
it's amazing.
Fun. I beat the game, and then like 2 days later, I was like, it's so fun. I'm just going to go do this awful, boring side shit.
No.
Which is, by the way, it's boring, it's stupid, it's poorly set up, it's not impactful. It's so fun.
Because it's just fun to go around and do stuff. It's just fun to move around the city.
And do stuff.
No, this was so what I was trying to say earlier was that yesterday I woke up at like 8 and I turned on Spider-Man and I was done with the story by like 9 or 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I kept playing it until 7 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Like I finished the story and just immediately went straight into like, I'm just going to do all all these icons on this map. I'm just going to do them all. I
beat the game in, I think, 3 sittings. Plus, I was doing some.
That's not many.
And I might have said no, it wasn't. I think I was averaging like 4 hours of playing it per sitting, maybe a little bit longer, and then went back and did. I beat the game at the end of like a 4-hour sitting, and so when I beat it, I was like, okay, I'm done. And I assumed I was never going to play it again, or maybe not until some DLC came out. And then like 2 days later, I was like, no, I guess I do want to go and do more swinging around. Because it's really fun.
So fun to swing around.
But
the traversal system in that game is sublime.
It is great. It is so good. It is so much fun to do. And then the best part of it is, and I heard a lot of comments about how like, which is true, and it's true for a lot of games, but it's maybe especially true for this game. You know, you kind of figure out, oh no, you have all these options, but you kind of figure out the stuff that works, and you do that stuff. And I heard a lot of people saying that about this game, and it is true. Like, you know, pick the things that work and stick to it.
Well,
but fucking around and like figuring out how to like really stay in the air for a long time and beat the shit out of people without ever touching the ground is itself its own other whole fun thing.
I don't even do that much aerial combat.
It's a blast. Here's the thing. Here's the trick, right? There's a couple things you got to use all in tandem. There's punching people up into the air, and then you join them and go and punch them a bunch. Where are you going? Are you just hot? Okay. There's the leaping off people, which I think that is probably one that gets not utilized enough.
Leaping off people?
If you punch someone, you can then press X, and you immediately jump into the air.
What?
And then you can hold triangle, and you can yank them up with you. That's like a move that you have to learn.
Yeah.
But like... And then you've got the kick. You know, you can hold square. This is another of the skills you can learn. You hold square and you kick.
The swing kick. Yeah, that one took me forever to... And I know I'm not the only one. It took me forever to figure out because it says to push square in the air.
Yeah.
And what you do is you jump and hold square, and he shoots a web and swings on it. But I thought you were supposed to do it with the normal traversal swinging, like you hold R2 to swing and then hold square. Oh. And I was like, I can't get this kick to work.
Oh, I didn't have that problem, luckily. But that's another thing where it's like, you know, you slowly fall down. It's all fake bullshit. You can't stay in the air as long as Spider-Man does, but you do slowly fall down as you're punching people. What? Yeah. And so...
No, Spider-Man's real.
Oh, is he?
He got bit by that spider.
I thought it was just a game in a movie.
It was a radioactive spider.
Okay.
He didn't get radiation and poisoning and die. Instead, he became a Spider-Man.
So the trick to maintaining aerial combat is when you're falling down, you use that leap back up move, the square and then X, and then you can also use the hold square to do the kick. And when you do the swing, at the height of your swing, you're back up to like combat height. And then you just yank someone else back up.
That's interesting because that's just not how I do it. But that's what I think is cool. There's just so many different options that you can. You know, you can not utilize like half of the abilities in that game and still feel like you have so many tools at your disposal.
Yeah, totally. And then there's still like a ton of stuff that I did not utilize very often. One thing that I spent almost the entire game ignoring is yanking guns out of people's hands.
Really?
Yeah. I basically didn't do that until the last third or last quarter of the game.
Yeah. And as you go, it gets so much more effective. Like, at first, when you are pulling guns out of people's hands, it's just kind of like, you're literally just like yanking it out of their hand and it kind of like falls on the ground in front of them. But then like you upgrade, like, okay, after you yank it from them, you can swing it around and throw it back at them. And then you can also unlock the ability where when you swing stuff around, it knocks enemies down. So then it becomes like a crowd control thing where you can keep people off of you while you throw the gun back at them. And
what a fucking fun game. But then, so the politics so there's like, I guess I have 3 main points about why the game's politics are so bad.
Okay.
The first one is the one that I hear a lot. Spider-Man is best friends with cops. He keeps joking about how he's a cop, and you spend the entire game helping the cops turn back on their downed mass surveillance system.
Or you spend the first 10 minutes doing that, and then it's done.
It took me because I didn't like go seek them out until I was in the area, and so it took me about, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of the way through the game before I had them all.
It's a lot of restraint.
Yeah. What was your other stuff?
Well, this is a game. What I think is so fascinating about this game, it really shows how much fun it is to just move around the world. That there's backpacks scattered throughout the world that you can collect, and it's just completely just a collectible. It's just you just go to the backpack and you get the backpack. But the trophy for collecting all the backpacks is less common than the trophy for finishing the story. More people have gone around and got all the backpacks than have finished the story.
Yeah, I got all the backpacks before I finished the story.
That's funny.
So you're helping these cops, and you're doing the mass surveillance thing. You're joking about the cops, and it really is like this is like a potentially illegal mass surveillance system that Spider-Man is gladly turning back on for the police to use.
Gladly turning it back on for them to use, and also happily hacking into it at the same time for his own use.
Right. Yeah. So I think that speaks volumes, like just by itself. That's the one that I hear most often is about that. The other thing is how it shows the technology in the game as being sort of fundamentally positive. It takes a really, really long time for Otto Octavius to be shown. Spoilers for Spider-Man. So far there have not been spoilers, but I'm going to spoil some stuff. It takes a really, really long time for Otto Octavius to be talking manically about his ideas about prosthetics for Peter to stop going like, wow, he seems really enthusiastic about this.
Yeah.
And for him to start going like, is everything okay? And the thing that he's worried about still isn't the technology. He's still not really worried about these fucking like horrible monster claws coming out of his back.
Well,
the first time he sees them, he's not worried about that.
Yeah, like there's like they're making prosthetic arms for amputees, and then at some point Dr. Octavius is like, what's the fucking point of making, like, why are we replicating dumb human arms? We should make awesome arms. And like Peter never sees the octopus arms and goes like, it's really fucking weird that you're doing that.
Yeah, and it's like, why are you trying to create like a techno class of person and like a powerful like humanoid robot hybrid?
Well, not that I wanted him to be like morally outraged, but I thought it was weird. There wasn't even a line of like, you've got weird tentacle arms now.
The concern is always about his like physical health and that he's like working too hard, and it's never about like the thing that you're doing fundamentally should be questioned.
Well, I don't know that I really agree that it should be. Like,
You don't think that he should have been like, wait, we were doing regular prosthetics, but now you're showing me these octopus arms that are extending from your back, and that he never is even curious about it. He's not concerned. No questions. He's just like, wow, he's really enthusiastic about this. I hope he's not working too hard. And he is working too hard, and also he's gonna try to kill everybody.
But I think that you're really only talking about one scene.
No, there's more. Because then there's later where you're playing as MJ, and you're in Grand Central Station, and they're displaying all the Osborne tech.
First of all, when did they change it to Grand Central Terminal? Who thought that was a good idea?
I don't know.
What? Go on. I just wanted to say that. Like, they're just... I'm just playing this game, and they're like, hey, it's GCT, Grand Central Terminal. And I'm like, who the fuck did that?
I don't know.
What, like... Or people like, station? I don't get it. What's a station? What's a train station? Never heard of that.
MJ's in Grand Central Terminal.
Get your shit together, New York City.
MJ's in Grand Central Terminal, and she already knows that Osborne made this like plague.
Does she?
Yes, she does. She already knows that Osborne made this plague.
I thought this was before that.
No, because she's there to stop them from getting the Osborne device that releases the plague.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's walking around and she's looking at all this technology, and she's just like admiring Osborne. And it's like, you're here to stop the death machine he made.
I interacted with those things, but I don't remember her being like impressed.
She's really positive about them. And it happens another time. She's in when she sneaks into his penthouse, and she's like looking at stuff, and she's talking about him like he's a friend, and she's talking about him like... Yeah, and I know that he is her friend's dad.
Yeah,
but like she knows that he has put the entire city at danger by developing like basically a dirty bomb.
But he didn't mean to.
But that's the thing. That's the politics that are bad.
Keith.
And he also, and this is also, by the way, during the city also being ravaged by, what are they called? Saber?
Sable.
Sable, yeah.
Yeah.
The city's being ravaged by the fucking mercenaries that he hired.
Hang on, I've had this line in my head for a week. You gotta let me say it.
Okay.
It's really weird to me that honestly, in the grand scheme of things, the story isn't outraged enough about this, but they are like, hey, the mayor of New York has like his own private army. Doesn't that seem bad? And I'm like, yo, the mayor of New York already had a private army. It's called the NYPD.
Yeah.
That's like the main problem with this story.
And that's a real quote from Mayor Bloomberg. When Bloomberg was mayor of New York, he once said that he has the world's third biggest army at his disposal.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's a real quote. Anyway, and then I can't remember my original third thing, but I thought of a fourth thing. So this is the fourth thing. Aunt May works for Feast. This is like a homeless shelter, and it is like the most like. I think it is like a really like it seems like a nice place. Like you go in there, and it seems like a nice place. It seems like they're doing good work.
It's
obviously,
like
to help
gymnasium with like a bunch of beds and tables and like homeless people hanging out.
Yeah, but everyone that works there seems nice. Everybody that's there seems happy. But also, this is a video game. That type of homeless shelter is really bad. This is like they're making deals with companies for like sponsorship, and they've got like all this publicity, and they've got this is like a nightmare real world version of a charity that like you'd look up like on a charity rating website, and they'd be like, 80% of everything you donate to them goes to advertisement and to payouts.
Where are they advertising? I don't remember any of this.
Everybody fucking knows Feast. All over the city, there's Feast stuff.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I did see was there's like a side mission where it's like, and this is like another. This just rolls right along with like everything that's bad about this game, but it's like, these thugs like knocked over this Feast truck to steal all this stuff from and these trucks have like Feast across the sides of the trucks, and I'm like, where'd they get these branded trucks from?
Yeah, exactly. So Feast is like prime example of like a shitty neoliberal charity.
And there's one more thing about Feast, and this is more just a video game thing where like these sorts of things just don't make sense in video games, because like you break into Martin Lee's office, and the idea is you're supposed to look around the office and see it's like an info dump about Martin Lee. Like, here's things about him, a picture of his parents and awards on the wall or whatever. But it's like I'm looking around and I'm like, this office is like 20 feet by 15 feet. This is like the biggest office
enormous.
Ever for a homeless shelter.
It is like beautifully decorated.
It's beautiful, yeah.
And like you step into the hallway, and all of a sudden it looks like a fucking school hallway, like a shitty with like tile and fluorescent lights.
Again,
that's it. That's what those charities look like. Like, to the people that made this game, they're like, yeah, the guy that runs a charity is like fucking rich. That's how it goes. That's how it's good. And in the chat, someone was saying it's past, but they're talking about the Doc Ock arms, and it's like, you know, secondary, like as secondary arms, who cares or whatever. I'm just paraphrasing you, whoever said it, but like, shouldn't they focus on getting like regular arms first? And it reminded me of one of the things that you see in his office. He's sketching things out, and there's like a picture of a claw, and there's an arrow pointed to it, and it's like, need fingers? Question mark? Like, need real hands? Question mark? And it's like, how is Peter Parker seeing this? A guy that's supposed to care about people,
weird,
and go like, yeah, maybe Octavius is onto something. Maybe prosthetics don't need fingers and hands. Maybe they just need grabby claws. It's crazy. It's crazy. He's not concerned about it.
But you could argue that this goes along with Peter's character in this, that it's depicted that that his personal life is in shambles, you know, like in pretty much any way that you can imagine, because he's just spending all of his time and energy being Spider-Man. So you can make the argument that it's like he's not noticing what's happening because he's not paying enough attention.
But you're right. But the other thing is, there's never really any consequences. The game never really says like, wow, Peter Parker's like making a mistake, or Peter Parker is like has a bad idea of the world because of his time as Spider-Man, or for any other reason.
He does get evicted.
He does get evicted, but they you know, they don't, and they shouldn't, but they never show that as like he fucked up in any other way besides that he just didn't have money.
But
there was the part when he first has dinner with MJ again, and he's talking about the science job, and MJ's like, wow, this is the first time it sounds like something's more important to you than Spider-Man stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, I guess it is.
You're like, yeah, this is like really valuable work that we're doing.
And so he says right in the thing, like, I'm more interested in this stuff than
That's
Spider-Man.
true. That never manifests in the story.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, games.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we're like criticizing all these parts of the story, but I think by and large, it's for like by video game standards, it's actually like the storytelling is pretty good. Like
totally.
Generally the characters are very well written.
Yeah, the craft of the story is good. It is well done. It's just that a lot. Oh, I remember the other point is that like J. Jonah Jameson is being portrayed as a fucking loon.
Yeah,
he's like but there's two things that he talks about. Right, he talks about how, like, no matter what, no matter who says anything, Spider-Man is a fucking villain, and he's destroying the city.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many people call on to be like, Spider-Man saved my life. It doesn't matter, like, what the scenario is. J. Jonah Jameson always twists it into this thing where Spider-Man is, like, eating babies. And
right.
I can't remember if that's something that he actually said in the game, or if that's a joke that I heard someone say on a different podcast.
But there's definitely one where he accuses him of eating pigeons.
Pigeons, right? Maybe he's
seen
pigeons.
Collecting
maybe he's not a Spider-Man. Maybe he's a man.
Maybe
spider.
he's a man spider.
Right? And but here's the thing. everything else that he talks about, and I've heard other people talk about this too. This and the police stuff. These are the most common things. Everything else he's saying is like relatively accurate.
Occasionally,
maybe
he kind of has
have
a
all
point.
this mass surveillance stuff. Disabled people are bad. Osborn has too much power. All of this stuff is portrayed though with the same tone as the Spider-Man is a man spider eating pigeons.
Oh, I thought you meant that he has some points about Spider-Man, like maybe we shouldn't have a masked vigilante going around doing whatever he wants.
That's true too.
Spider-Man kind of leaves a lot of destruction in his wake. Like there's this fucking part I remember.
He totally does. Yeah, you're totally right.
I remember there's a part where there's someone escaping on a helicopter, and like, to my memory, there's no like time urgency. It's not like, oh, if they get away, they're gonna detonate a nuclear bomb in the city, or it's just like they are bad people and they're getting away in a helicopter. And his solution is not to say fuck they got away. Instead, he chases them down, jumps on the helicopter, like disables the helicopter in midair because he's studied helicopter engine schematics in his spare time in case it came up.
It's really easy to break a helicopter,
and it did come up. He had to take down a helicopter.
Yeah.
But so then, like, this helicopter is crashing, and it's like this big spectacle where he has to stop this disintegrating helicopter from murdering innocent civilians on the streets of New York. And, you know, like, there's this part where, like, the tail breaks off, and it's, like, rolling down the street at, like, 10 civilians, like, all lined up. And, like, Spider-Man just barely shoots it with his web and stops it in time, and, like, all this stuff. It's like, dude, you did all this. Like, you caught 2 people, and, like, yeah, there were people, but you almost killed so many people, and you caused all this destruction on the streets and buildings.
It's okay, because if you kill those people, you just get to try again.
yeah.
I think so. I think the rationale is that one of the people on the helicopter had a rocket launcher, and I think that he was afraid that they were going to shoot the rocket launcher. I don't know. There's people with rocket launchers all the time in this game.
So many rocket launchers in this game.
Yeah. I totally agree about your point.
There's all these car chases. You know, it's like a whole category of side mission, and the way he deals with car chases is always. And some of these people, like, he just throws out of the cars. Like, he just literally tosses them. Mm-hmm. Like, you stole this car, so I guess you're dead now.
Yeah.
Or something. But his solution is always to get rid of every single person in the car, including the driver, and then somehow stop the car. Yeah. Like, maybe you stop the car first. So that, like, if you have web powers that can stop a car, maybe do that first. But, like, not to have... Because it's always, like, a QuickTime event. Like, oh, no, Spider-Man's got to stop this car before it rampages out of control.
Yeah.
It's like, fucking knock it off, Spider-Man.
Stop the car first, then deal with the guy in there. It's a guy. He's not a threat to you, pretty much.
I didn't actually notice this until after I finished the story. But anytime you knock somebody off a building, they just magically web to the side of the building. They fall, like, 20 feet and then just... spider webs shoot out of the building, grab the person, and stick them to the building. I didn't notice that. I was just like, first of all, that makes no sense at all. Like, it's just an automatic sentient spider web that's saving them arbitrarily so that Spider-Man's not killing people.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, Spider-Man's killing a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
Like, even...
It's the Batman problem.
Like, even when you compare it to, like, Batman, like, even that he's, like, still killing a lot of people, even by Batman standards.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference is because the Batman games are the Arkham games.
Yeah.
And I think that those are generally just slower games with less people in them.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I've only played Arkham Knight. I have not played Arkham...
You mean...
Arkham Asylum. I haven't played Arkham City.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Or the other one. I wanted to touch on 2 things. One, Lexi in the chat said that...
man, we really hate this amazing game.
Yeah.
This is like, I'll put this out there. Even with all the problems that we're saying about this game, it might be my game of the year.
It's so good. It's really good.
So good. It's totally the Arkham Asylum for Spider-Man.
Yeah, you will definitely hear us saying almost all the same shit in December or January or February
in March when we finally get around to our Game of the Year podcast.
But Lexi said prosthetic legs designed for running kind of ignore the shape of human feet and arguably make something better for the job, right?
Boom.
Well, but the difference is that you need fingers.
No, shut your fucking mouth, Keith. You just got owned bad.
You don't need toes like you need fingers. Fingers are like part of like losing your arms.
Well, the claws do have. I mean, they're claws, but they.
Part of losing your arms and wanting
Those-
to get new arms is the idea of like what if I could like physically touch the people in my life that I care about and that care about me and not have them be scared of a monster claw.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's established that at this point he might be a little off the rails.
Yeah, but Peter Parker didn't see that. He didn't have any ideas.
I know. Yeah, I know.
None, zero. No, not even questions. Not even like, listen, I'm on board, but like, what's your thought process here? And his thought process is, gotta kill the city, gotta kill Osborn. And the other thing is, I did a slight amount of editorializing when in the way that I played the side missions. You go through, and every once in a while, the cops are on the phone, and they go, "Blah, blah, blah, robbery in progress," and then I would go like, "Okay, sure." Spider-Man goes and stops a robbery. But a lot of times, it's like a drug deal, and I decided that I never would stop a drug deal.
Yeah, dude, like that.
And so I heard Austin talking about it on the Waypoint podcast that you go and stop a drug deal, and then he's like, "Love to put away drug dealers."
Yeah. Like
he's
Spider-Man
so
is
enthusiastic
so
about it.
peppy about putting drug dealers in prison.
So that's another thing. And then it's like, so specifically, like contrasting that with like he's so excited about putting away these drug dealers,
Yeah.
but he's and he's so everyone that he arrests, he's like, "Fucking got you one, man!" Like all his Spider-Man shit that he says. 2 hits, me hitting you, web hitting the ground. I don't know. And he's super thrilled about that. But then like there's these literal supervillains who are out to kill as many people as possible. Specifically
What?
Martin Lee and Otto Octavius. And he's like, "You're better than this. You can change." And it's like, did the fucking drug dealer not change? Like, why do these fucking terrorists get like a chance to redeem themselves, but the hundreds and hundreds of people that you
So many people
beat the fucking
So
shit out of
many
and
people.
throw off buildings and whip rockets back at
Yeah.
and like throw manhole covers at.
My go-to suit power was crazy lightning hands, where your hands become electrified, because then you can like the heavies and the shield guys and basically like anybody that's a pain in the ass to deal with, they're immediately stunned by the electricity, and it chains to any person around them. So like if you have like 8 guys all clustered in one area, they're all getting electrocuted just from me punching one guy. So like I'm just going
That's
around
brutal.
like mass electrocuting everybody in the city.
I think I chose like literally the non-violent version of that, which is Web Blossom.
Yeah.
You jump up and you web everybody around you, which accomplishes the same thing. All the heavies and shield guys and sword guys are all webbed. And it gets everybody around you. And I like that if you're lucky and if there's a lot of like cars and walls around, you can just like take out 8 guys because they just stick to the wall.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'm thinking maybe I should go back and try.
You should try out the Web Blossom. It's fucking sick.
I just like, I remember, my memory of the beginning of the game was me getting that and looking at it and going, that sounds awesome, and then trying it a few times and kind of being like, I'm a little underwhelmed by this, but maybe I need to try it again.
Most of those suits are trash.
Yeah, like none of the suit powers are good.
I was saying this on Twitter. No, sorry, not suit powers. Suit design, costume design.
Oh.
I think most of them totally suck. I was complaining on Twitter about it. I was like, why do 8 of these look like Spider-Man is dressing up as Iron Man? And then someone added me and said, actually, the guy that wrote the Spider-Man comics that designed all those Iron Man looking suits went on to write Iron Man.
Right, Iron Man.
It was like there was like 6 of them that were just like a metal Spider-Man suit.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 at least. Yeah. I mean, one of them...
I think there was 6.
One of them, to be fair, is literally a suit made by Tony Stark for Spider-Man in the Marvel movies.
No, that one's not one of the ones.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in there.
The Armor Mark what?
It's called
Because there is one that's a Stark suit, and that one is made out of fabric.
Yeah, Stark suit is the normal Spider-Man outfit that he uses in, like, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay.
And then in Spider-Man Homecoming, there's a part where Tony Stark's is like, I also made you the Iron Spider suit. And, like, Spider-Man, does something like, like, it shows that he's grown because he is able to recognize that he's not ready for the Iron Spider suit or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know.
Not ready for what are we talking about?
It made sense in the movie. I don't know.
All right.
It's a good movie. It's a good one.
All right.
It's like... Okay. I was going to say it's like the best Spider-Man movie, but then I was like, well, I didn't even see those Amazing Spider-Mans, but I heard they were bad. But I never cared for any of the Sam Raimi ones, so I thought it was like the best Spider-Man movie.
I liked the Sam Raimi ones.
I mean, I liked them all right at the time.
I think...
I feel like if I went back to them, I'd be like, these suck.
Honestly, I think if you went back to them, you might like them more. I think that they have... So they were made...
You saw them?
4 or 5 years ago. So not like super recent, but
that's pretty recent.
We were living in a world where there was a lot of superhero movies that I hated.
Yeah.
At the time, and I watched them and was like, I still like these. And I think the reason is because now we're living in a world where you can say, like, well, it might not be a great movie, but it's a great superhero movie. That didn't exist back then. It was either a good movie or a bad movie.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone thought it was a good movie.
I remember when Spider-Man 2 came out, and the big thing was that critics were saying, best superhero movie ever. And at the time, there had been, like, 5 of them. So I was like, yeah, wicked high bar, guys.
Well, you have to remember, critics are old and stupid, and so they're counting, like, the Spider-Man movies from 40 years ago.
Yeah. And it was better than
And
this.
all the Batman movies from, like, 30 years ago.
Oh God, it was 30 years. I was about to correct you, and then I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I was like, because I was about to be like, no, because the first one came out like right before I was born, and then I'm like, oh, I'm almost 30. Never mind.
Yeah, it's bad.
I realize like I'm finally at the age now where when people ask me how old I am, I have to stop and think about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what fucking
Yeah, when I was a kid, it didn't make
now?
sense to me, but that's because I only had like 15 to remember.
Well, years were such a big deal when you were a kid.
Yeah. And now it's the big deal, but it's the reverse.
So, and since we mentioned all these Spider-Man spoilers, there's no point to not mention it. Really, like, a lot of the bad politics and stuff were things where it was like, okay, I don't like this, but like, realistically, it's probably not even possible to make a superhero story that would completely satisfy me because superheroes are sort of weird and fascist, like, by design, sort of.
Yeah, you're pretty much right. I do want to say that the thing about the politics of the game is that they're like tremendously liberal, neoliberal. These are not like, we're not talking about like, this isn't, with I think one big exception, this isn't a like racist game. This isn't like a conservative game, unless you want to have an argument that neoliberalism and liberalism is actually conservative, and I'm here for that. But like, this isn't. It's not like gross unless you're far enough to the left where liberalism's gross.
Well,
and also I'm here for that.
Since you brought up the Sam Raimi movies, like my memory is that those movies were fucking full of like Spider-Man high-fiving cops or whatever. Like that was
probably,
like
yeah.
That, I mean, that's kind of Spider-Man's thing. Is like Spider-Man really likes cops.
Yeah, and Spider-Man really like. But they all kind of really like cops.
Is like, I think if Spider-Man really existed, the cops would all fucking hate him.
They do.
Like
a lot of them do.
A lot of them do, but not that many of them. And like, because like I talked about like the LAPD RFK thing where like there are a lot of conspiracy theorists that are like, the LAPD clearly covered up this evidence of the RFK assassination, so they're obviously being controlled by whoever assassinated JFK. They're controlling the LAPD to get away with killing RFK. Because, like, if you're going to kill the president, you're not going to let his brother become president, man. And, like, I'm not saying that that's, like, totally crazy. I mean, it's a little out there, but it logically,
I don't know, man.
I don't know. That's
I don't
the
know,
thing.
man. What the fuck happened to JFK, though?
That's the thing. Like, I can't say like it's, but what I'm saying is like conspiracy theorists are convinced that LAPD's misconduct in the case proves that it was
Kyle,
like a government conspiracy.
Did you know
cover-up.
that the term conspiracy theory was invented by the CIA to discredit people that were onto the CIA? That's true.
That was easy.
Did that work?
No,
No, it didn't work. Anyway, my point
I'm
is,
not kidding. No, that is true.
my point is, there are a lot of people that think that LAPD's misconduct in the RFK case is evidence that they were part of some grand conspiratorial cover-up, when really, I think you could Occam's razor it away by saying probably the LAPD was just really concerned with how people viewed the LAPD and they didn't want to look incompetent. Like, it's kind of the same thing with Spider-Man. Like, they would fucking hate that there was some masked asshole showing them up all the time.
You can have the exact same thing, though. You can have that there's this big massive cover-up, but
could be both.
Instead of the LAPD being part of it, they're just being manipulated into feeling insecure and destroying evidence. It's very easy to have like one person in the government be like, hey, listen, I'm on the LAPD side here. You should probably burn some of that evidence because someone's going to go.
Oh, man,
Listen, it could be anything.
Oh, here's the thing about the RFK thing was that a friend of Robert Kennedy's, a few years after he was killed, kind of like looked at the autopsy and started looking at things and realized like a lot of this stuff doesn't match up or make sense. And he kind of like went on this crusade to be like, we need to figure out who killed RFK. We need to find out or whatever. And then that guy was mysteriously murdered after a couple years later by someone from his past, but like not someone that had any motive to kill him. You know, like it was just someone he used to know showed up one day and shot him.
Kyle, it's lies upon lies, man.
There's a lot of stuff. You go listen to the RFK tapes, it's kind of wild. I'm just saying.
Hyacinth says, the game's politics seem more or less 100% in line with the last 10 years of Marvel films. Those movies have been really neoliberal and gross for a long time. Yeah, I don't watch those movies. They suck. Those movies suck. I hate them. I
still like them.
I don't like them.
I watch them and I'm like, these are good. But the thing is...
And they suck in the same ways. I mean, I'm talking not politically, but probably also politically. But just in terms of like crafting a story, they fall for the same fucking shit that like... We've had this discussion before where you were saying Spider-Man 1 and 2 were worse than people remember, but that Spider-Man 3 was better than people remember.
Yeah.
And basically your point was that they all are kind of just okay.
Yeah, I mean, at least I think Spider-Man 2 and 3 were. The thing was, like, I saw Spider-Man 2 and 3. I saw both of them really late. So by the time I saw 2, I had had it hyped to the moon and back about how it was amazing. And I was like, it was just okay. And then 3, I had heard a few weeks of everyone saying it was the worst thing ever made and it was evil incarnate. And then I saw it and I was like, it was just okay.
Yeah. But so my point is, though, that, like, one of the big criticisms of Spider-Man 3 was... too many villains. Like they kind of cram a bunch of stuff in there. And like that's been the superhero movie MO since then. Every fucking movie does that. And a lot of times they do it from the opposite direction where it's too many heroes.
You think there's too many villains in all these?
Yeah, I think that superhero movies set up and resolve conflicts at a speed that doesn't make any sense.
Well,
you're drawing on. Let's take even the ones that people seem to still really like the Arkham movies.
There's no
not
Arkham.
Arkham.
The Nolan movies.
The Dark Knight movies. The Batman movie. The Nolan Batman.
The Nolan movies.
What are they called?
Nolan Batman movies.
The Dark Knight trilogy.
I guess people call it the Dark Knight. It's Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises.
Okay, so you have a movie. The Joker is the villain. you're drawing upon people's idea of the Joker as like this arch rival of Batman spanning decades. And they introduce him and kill him in the same movie. They do that
but that's
all the fucking time.
Yeah.
They do it, and it doesn't work. It makes the movies bad. It makes them seem trivial.
I don't
agree. It is in direct conflict with the history of those characters that they're trying to draw on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the best case scenario of how these movies play out. The Marvel movies from the last, 8 or 10 years have been way worse about it.
It has been 10 years, by the way.
Yeah. It have been way worse about it, especially the Avengers movies, which are just like a fucking cavalcade. There's so many characters. It's there's so many characters that it's a 2-hour movie, but each character gets like one Vine length.
No, you're right,
contact.
but I will say this though. The Avengers movies are designed to be the movie equivalent of the comic book crossover event series. Like, comic books do this all the time. Like, I think one was called Infinity War, and there definitely was one called Civil War, where, all the heroes come together to fight a bunch of people or whatever. It's like a big thing, and it shouldn't work in a movie. Somehow the Avengers movies make it work, and it's sort of like weird black magic that I don't understand.
This is my point here. I do not think they work.
That's fine. I just saw Infinity War like last week, and I thought it was really good, and I was like, dang, they somehow did that. That movie had 45 characters, and it didn't feel overly cluttered or rushed or anything. But those are the big crossover movies. The regular Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, I think, usually only have one villain, sometimes two, but never more than two.
I don't know, man. It's been so long since I quit on those. The last one that I saw, Ant-Man, but before that, the last one that I saw was the first Avengers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You didn't even see the second Avengers.
No.
Wow.
I heard it was worse, so I was like, oh, that first one already
You didn't
sucked.
hear that from me.
Was it worse?
No.
Better?
I thought it was a little bit better. But again, it was the hype thing. Everyone said Avengers 1, it's incredible. And I saw it and I was like, this movie's pretty good. And then everyone said Avengers 2 is bad.
Here's another thing. I think that they're incredibly unfunny. And the way that they tell jokes, I really hate. There's a really standout moment for me in Thor 2, which I enjoyed, where Loki turns into Captain America for a second.
That sounds like something the God of Mischief would do.
Yeah, he does it as a joke. He does it to make fun of Captain America to Thor. And it was a fucking riot. And I cracked up at it. I was like, oh, that's hysterically funny. And then I was like, oh, that's the first time a joke landed in any of these Marvel movies. And that's when I was like, I'm liking this movie, but this might be the last one of these that I see.
Bummer.
I don't remember the exact timeline. I don't remember which came out when, but I saw the first Avengers, Thor 2, and Iron Man 3. One of those was the last one that I saw besides Ant-Man.
Yeah, those were basically came out like one after another.
Okay.
It was like Avengers 1, Iron Man 3, Thor 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned this on a stream before. I just caught up on all the Marvel movies that I had skipped. So I watched Guardians 2, and then Thor Ragnarok, and then Black Panther, and then Avengers Infinity War. And I don't know if I'd say I really liked all of them. I liked all of them different amounts, but like came away from it being like, that was fun. I wish there was more Marvel movies for me to watch, even though I had spent the last 2 years being like, all these fucking movies, what the fuck? I think it was just more like, if I had felt the need to keep up with them as they were being released, it would have felt like homework. But the fact that I like waited until I was ready and then watched them, I was like, I enjoyed that.
I remember, by the way, my real criticism of The Dark Knight, which is that
is it Christian Bale's shitty Batman voice?
No, I remember it because the Joker thing was just the setup. Harvey Dent was the punch.
Swear to me.
Harvey Dent was Two-Face for like 18 minutes.
But it's fine.
Why? But you want me to care about Harvey Dent and about Two-Face just so that you can have him for like 2 scenes.
You're just complaining about movies.
But you can make the movie different. The movie wasn't destined to be the way that it was.
I actually, I really liked the Harvey Dent thing in Dark Knight because I actually didn't know at that point that Harvey Dent was Two-Face. So when it happened in the movie, I was like, oh shit, that guy's Two-Face. I didn't even see that coming.
But he doesn't even get a chance to be Two-Face. He pulls one stunt. That's all he's got. He's got the one stunt. That's it.
I mean,
it's
what's
not
he
even
gonna
time
do?
enough to establish himself as a villain. And then you're a special case because you didn't know Harvey Dent was Two-Face. But
If you did know
that's-
that, you're just waiting for it the whole movie.
you're waiting for it the whole movie. But then they are preying on people's understanding of the comic book universes in order to take these shortcuts
a little bit.
to where they don't, but they all have it, and that one is sort of the best case scenario of it, except for that the Harvey Dent thing is ridiculous. But like that is the through line between Spider-Man 3 straight through the Avengers is taking shortcuts based on people's presumed understanding of superheroes.
I mean, I do kind of like. I was thinking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I was thinking about how I actually do kind of like the weird pace at which they move through things in that universe, because it's like the movies come out all the time, or at least I should say, I was going to say, or at least it seems that way. Like, no, it definitely is that way. They're coming out constantly.
All the time, yeah.
But it's sort of interesting to me that they're not that concerned about like what they leave behind. Like, I think like in Avengers 1 like ends with them building Avengers Tower, and then like by the end of the second Avengers they're like, forget that tower, we have this new place, and then like that place only shows up in Ant-Man, and then like in Civil War they're just like, we're broken up now, fuck Avengers. And then in Thor Ragnarok they're just like, guess what, Thor's whole world and everyone he ever knew, it's just blown up because fuck it, we were done with that. No one needed to see Anthony Hopkins wearing an eye patch anymore, so we're just through with it.
Yeah, see, the thing that you're describing is exactly what I fucking hate about it. It's so annoying. It's like it's able to draw on comic books as this sort of ethereal, constantly evolving like landscape for story, and apply that to a movie. But it's like, but the comic book took decades to do that, and you just like did it in 3 movies. Like, you did it each one. You did like an entire era in 2 hours, and it's like the plot equivalent of watching Michael Bay direct. It's like,
I mean, these movies are 2.5 hours long. It's not like they're really rushing things when it comes to like movie pacing.
But it's 2.5 hours. It's 2.5 hours, which is a long time, but they're rushing the whole time. It's not like they're taking their time within the 2.5 hours. They're still rushing. It's like, yeah, it's that's the only way that I can describe it. Like trying to watch an Avengers, I guess not trying to, because they're not hard to follow. It's just that they suck to follow. They're just annoying to follow.
What is?
The plots of the movies.
Oh.
The pace is Michael Bay gets some credit in weird like film circles for his ability to make these incredibly fast moving shots cohesive, but they still suck.
Yeah, but
it still sucks to watch his directing.
You bring that up a lot, but I don't think that many people share that opinion, though.
No, it's just like in film circles.
But
that's why I say
not all of them, though.
Sure, but some of them. But I'm just using it as an example. Like, in the same way that, yes, Michael Bay is a technically talented director that sucks to watch, these movies are technically coherent stories that suck to watch.
I don't always agree. We just gotta agree to disagree.
Yeah, we should agree to disagree.
We were talking about Spider-Man.
Do you got anything else? We've been going for 2 hours.
For a while, yeah.
Willing to call it. We can just call this a weird podcast.
That was so weird.
I'm going to edit down the political stuff so that the Spider-Man stuff can sort of be in the forefront. But not by a ton, I don't think. Like, it's still going to be in there.
I don't know how you separate that. That's like the political stuff and the Spider-Man stuff. It's like two octopuses wrestling. It's just they're all the tentacles going everywhere.
Yeah. You know what? That would be great instead of hands. Would be just octopus stuff.
Well, you'd have to put something on the end there. Why not?
I also, by the way, think Dr. Octopus gives a bad name to octopuses because octopuses are fucking sick and Doc Ock is sick.
So I'm going to say this idea, but comic books have done so many different things. I'm positive that this has already been done. I'm sure it has. But there should be some like alternate universe.
Yeah, they did that.
There should be some alternate universe where all the characters are different in the just this whole idea is just in the service of what if Dr. Octopus was like a real octopus, or at least his tentacles were like he just had like slimy
suckers.
tentacles with suckers all over them.
Yeah, that'd be good. I like the anti-Ock suit. I just like anti-Ock is just a little good.
Yeah, I saw that and all I could think of was like Antioch the city. Like
you know what I thought?
We're gonna go crusading in my Antioch suit.
Do you know what I thought that you were only going to be able to think of?
What?
Is Anti-Up.
Antioch. I got no more words. That's it. Actually, that's. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
I just have one quick thing to apologize for.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, but I watched